There is no doubt that yoga has catapulted India onto the world stage. This ancient practice is now celebrated every 21st of June as World Yoga Day. What is special this time around? It's that Prime Minister Modi will lead the International Day of Yoga celebrations at the United Nations headquarters in New York, in what promises to be the world coming together to celebrate India's mantra for complete wellness. Back home, even as every community celebrated and actually practiced yoga, Diamond City Surat in Gujarat created a world record with over 1.25 lakh people performing yogic asanas at the same time. The event was held on the 12-kilometer stretch at Y Junction on Duma Road. The previous world record, if you're interested, there have been world records and they'll be broken every year. It was created by Jaipur when almost a lakh of people had performed simultaneously. That's the magic of yoga, and let it unfold starting now. In the studio with me, my colleague Kartikeya Sharma. After that, we shall be joined by practitioners of yoga. This has been part of our civilization for centuries, but I think this is one thing, Kartikeya, that I think it's Prime Minister Modi, he actually helped catapult this to a brand. It becomes brand India, and also India is somewhat now perceived as a soft power.
I think, people forget that when Prime Minister started talking about yoga, they linked it up with the Hinduism and Hindutva debate. But people forget that it was very ironic that the yoga had to make a comeback from the studios of San Francisco to India. Yoga acquired its own iconic status in 50s and 60s in SFO in LA. Now, when PM started talking about it, it turned into an issue of what does yoga mean for a modern country like India. I think the yoga debate became the debate on the identity of the country. A lot of people felt that this is being pushed by the Prime Minister because it has come out of his cultural repertoire or part of his larger cultural politics. But people forgot that yoga is religion neutral. In fact, it's more about spirit. It's like Gita, Dharma, the right path. It's not religion. It's it's spirituality. Yoga is about exercise,
overall wellness.
Overall wellness. And then he made yoga into a direct. Then he made yoga back in Indian sport, Indian wellness, or to say Indian science or Indian knowledge. I think knowledge is a better word. Indian knowledge system. He reclaimed that Indian knowledge system which we had just given away, it withered away. So, and now yoga becoming something which is so central to the Indian identity, I think that's a great contribution. A lot of people, I remember at that point of time, took out posters, photographs of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru doing a headstand, and saying that you used to practice yoga, but it was never pushed at this level.
Yeah.
So I think that is why when PM says let's celebrate World Yoga Day, it's different. When he said that this is not going to be the government as usual, there'll be complete departure. Yoga became part and parcel of that.
Absolutely. Nidhi Mohan Kamal, a very happy Yoga Day to you. It's great to see you. I see that you are an influencer. We were looking at all the young women who are, and it's great to have you on the show. Tell me something what Kartikeya, my colleague, said. Yoga, of course, he said it was there in our knowledge system, it was there in our civilization, but it was lying supine somewhere, wo hai to hai, like we have the Vedas and everything. Do you think that somehow, and I'm not doing politics right now, if you think, but I think it's to the great credit of Narendra Modi that he actually, brought it out and said, here, take away the magic of yoga. Would you agree with that, Nidhi?
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with it because the fact that International Yoga Day is a concept that came a few years ago, and he has to be credited for it. Yeah, yoga did become mainstream when we started having a conversation about it. So yeah, I think we'll have to give him that due credit.
Also, Nidhi, I want to ask you something about this being, today I was doing a short video on yoga. So there were, that she's wearing a sari and she's doing yoga, but I think yoga is dress agnostic, more than that is gender agnostic, more than that is age agnostic. You can start yoga whenever you want to. There is no prep as it is that you require for yoga. Isn't that right, Nidhi Mohan?
Absolutely. When we talk about yoga, I think we restrict our definition of yoga when we just look at the asana practice. This is a practice. This is a practice of how to live your life. So, how I'm breathing, to what I'm eating, to how I'm conducting myself with others, how I'm conducting myself with myself, my own thoughts. That's all yoga. It is not something that you do an hour on the mat wearing some fancy clothing. It is essentially everything you do throughout the day. So, as you said, you could be doing yoga in a sari, there's no dress code, there is no gender.
Right,
This is how you conduct yourself. If you look at even the meaning of yoga, the very definition of yoga is union. That means
right.
connecting yourself with your divine self. So this is essentially it's a spiritual practice, and that's got no connection with any religion or any sort of workout. Also, and
Right,
I think
right.
we restrict it to a workout when we say yoga is just that thing that you do on the mat.
All
It's
right.
beyond.
Kartikeya, when I remember when yoga, I clearly recall the posters and why do we need to do it? You are kind of forcing us to do it. All that politics happened. What is it that the world has accepted it so easily? The world, whether today it's in Singapore, New York, of course, will erupt even as Mr. Modi leads it. If they look at us as they look at this art as something that we, India, that is known as Bharat, or the other way around, has brought to them, what made them so accepting?
There are two things. I think one it has to do with the mandate which Narendra Modi got in 2014. So the push he had was important. Secondly, it was also about Modi's effort to reclaim the cultural heritage. So if you look at remaking of Kashi, if you look at remaking of Ayodhya, or if you look at the whole Jirnodhar of the Joshimath sector, Char Dham sector, yoga becomes part and parcel of that imagination. So that is why his persona made it different. Manmohan Singh, Narasimha Rao, they were politicians of different breed, and they had their own baggage in context of the Congress politics.
Right.
Like Jaishankar in one of his interviews, I think to The Economist, said that 10 years before, public was very ready to accept Americans, but you had political hesitation in UPA because of its own politics.
Yeah.
So similarly, people would have been very happy to receive yoga even 20 years ago, but the politicians had hesitation, and that is why if you look at this, yoga has become India's brand ambassador.
Yes.
True brand ambassador. People used to say films are brand ambassadors. Modi has made knowledge system brand ambassador. It is like to reclaim your own knowledge system. Even a couple of the Chinese papers, they acknowledge the fact that the impact which Indian monks had on evolution of Chinese Buddhism,
Right.
or even their impact on Chinese knowledge system.
Right.
So yoga is part and parcel of a larger cultural push. I don't see yoga in isolation. I see yoga in context of Buddhist diplomacy. I see yoga in context of the emphasis which Prime Minister has on the cultural linkages. It is even like Tamil Nadu. A lot of people praise the Dravidian politics, but the Prime Minister's initiative has been entirely different. He talks about the temples and he talks about the cultural affinity which the Tamil Nadu has with rest of the country.
Absolutely.
That's what makes him unique.
Yeah, and you spoke about Jawaharlal Nehru, Mrs. Gandhi and Dhiren Brahmachari. I mean, we all know that she was also practicing yoga for some time, but you're right. It was all there, but they did not see to it that it was manifested in a particular way, that it became a cultural link.
I think, there was also one thing by 80s and 90s, people thought that yoga is something esoteric.
Yeah.
Yoga is something like an old science, But even in 80s, when, it's not that yoga was not part of the curriculum. People thought, let's play football, let's do this, the whole drive to get ourselves inserted into West-led modernity. But yoga, to push yoga, Prime Minister has broken that prism of West-led modernity. I'm not saying that yoga needs to be modern to be relevant. The whole idea is that yoga becomes part of a larger identity, which is, as you said, religion agnostic.
Yes, absolutely.